Like, even in death, he's still a workaholic. Dude, get a life. Well, get a death, dude. Like,
Ladies, gentlemen, and those with the good sense to do away with the whole notion, I welcome you to the premier audio medium for all your Fazbear entertainment needs. The Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast. Note, FFPP is not responsible for any loss of appetite, disinterest, dismemberment, or other legally classified statuses. So strap in and enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast. I'm your host of the Toast, RyeToast, here to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's, like we always do. I've got a Patreon question and then just a bunch of emails. Let's get right on to it. Our first Patreon question, and our only one today, comes from Marks, they, them. What are your thoughts on the possibility that in the movie, the Schmidt family is meant to parallel the Murray family, both on terms of how likely it is, but also what it could do for story potential? Their parent situations do seem notably close, and you could connect Garrett and David, and we know families aren't inherently matching up to the games, giving Vanessa existing in the Afton family at all. I have your question. It does give us, like, on the face of it, I'm like, I don't see any reason why. But there's still the elephant in the room we've yet to address, which is why the hell William Afton went states away to kidnap a random child on a camping trip. So clearly the Schmidts in some way are important to William Afton. So if it turns out that the Schmidts, used to have this big animatronic facility or something like that, and, like, they worked with Fazbear, and, like, Fazbear thinks they fucked them over, what have you, maybe that's the link. Because that's kind of what we were thinking before Henry Emily was confirmed as a character in the second movie. Was like, well, Mike Schmidt, maybe in this universe, it's, instead of Charlotte, it's Henry Schmidt and his son, Mike Schmidt. And maybe that's what they're going for. But then, we meet Henry Emily in the next movie, so it's like, okay, so it's not that's not the reason. So what is the reason? So the idea that it's instead of the Emilys but instead being the Murrays, that's interesting. William Afton has Circus Baby already in these movies in one of the flashbacks, so, like, the Fun Times exist, which implies the sister location Bunker exists, which implies that William Afton got it from somewhere, which in the games he seems to have gotten it by renovating Edwin Murray's old underground laboratory. So, 2 for 2 on technical references to the Murray family. The question is, though, like, what would this do? Like, would this be helpful to the story at all? Would this add to anything? I don't know. I don't know. The issue so far with the FNAF movies is that, while they've been great, like, pieces of, like, hey, here's FNAF but in a movie, that's been fine, that's been great. The problem is, like, as movies, they've been a little all over the place, and I think it's because they're trying to touch on a lot of different things and give fans a lot of fun Easter eggs, and as a fan, I've loved them. But I do admit, what has been kind of lacking is the focus on the story of the movie themselves, rather than, this eclectic group of, here's a cool, fun thing we can do over and over and over again. So, hopefully the fact that the third movie seems to have picked up a new writer can help to fix that. But I bring this up because if they do focus on, like, just telling a good story, period, we might not get that much more information about the Schmidt family. Because we're all sitting here like, why the hell did William just kidnap a random child? If that's not necessary to the plot of the third movie, we might not find out. Editing and recording other stuff at my desk for like 2 hours, I've been fine. The moment I hit record on the podcast, I've been holding back yawns every sentence. I don't know why. Now, as far as, like, the families themselves and how similar are they, you're right that, like, it's not that similar, but that's not necessary. Because, like, on one hand, the parent situation's pretty close, where, like, once a death of the child occurred, the parents kind of fall apart at the seams. They're distant. They're presumably dead at some point. However, the child situation is very different. In Secret of the Mimic, it's just Edwin, Fiona, and David. It's just the three of them. Meanwhile, presumably, this is a 5-person household before William Afton gets involved. It's Garrett, Mike, and Abby. And then once the parents are out of the picture, then Mike watches over Abby. So the family is pretty drastically different, but their role might still be the same, right? Like the Schmidts may have been a different business partner, different than Henry, because Henry is the hands-on business partner. The Schmidts might have been like the business partners that have like been contracted with, or you outsource work and things like that for. And then, somehow we tie it back into, because of this, I'm going to kidnap your child. That's still like, I still don't understand that part at all. But hey, we have a third movie to hopefully explain it. And if they don't, then that's just going to be I genuinely think if we get to the end of this series, and as much as I already crowed about like, oh, well, it should be a good story first and focus on answering a bunch of lore questions second. If they don't explain why William Afton targeted Mike Schmidt's family, I think that is a writing blunder, because like that's not just lore. The whole entire character arc of Mike Schmidt is getting over his obsession with finding the killer of his brother by doing so by finding it in William Afton. Meaning the entire first movie and the start of the series would not have happened if not for this incident. This incident that on the face of it doesn't make any sense. Why was he states away at a random campground kidnapping a child? Like, it'd be one thing if there was like 6 murders and it's like, oh, we don't need the exact reason for why every single one of these happened. They're side characters, and the important thing for the story is that William Afton's bad. Sure. But if one of them survives, then it's now important. If the main character of your story has trauma related to the main villain, and we don't know why that happened in the first place, that feels like a writing error. That feels like we forgot it was so weird, and by the time we were done with the script, we didn't have time to add a reason why. So, I don't know. That to me, that's the one thing they really need to answer. It's like, why did he do that? And this does give a possible answer. If this is the Murrays, then the idea of William Afton going out there to do something like that, to get back at them, to shut them down so you can steal their business, what have you. Because in the games, I don't think William Afton killed David. I don't see a good reason for it. The game sets up like 6 different times that Edwin is a neglectful father and is putting his child in harm's way by putting his playground next to a shipping yard. And then the last time we hear about David is Edwin going, I left him out by the playground, which is next to the shipping yard. So, like, the game beats us over the head with the idea that David Murray died in the shipping yard, likely due to an accident at the hands of Edwin being neglectful. So, like, to do all of that, just to be like, actually, it's a twist. William Afton killed him, and it's not Edwin Murray's fault. What's the point of it? What's the point of any of this? Why are we narratively punishing Edwin Murray as a father if it wasn't his neglect that killed David? Because, like, the narrative is punishing... I talked about this a couple episodes ago. The narrative is punishing Edwin Murray for being a bad father, because not only does his entire family die in front of him, essentially, but after that, and he even after, as he's still continuing to work, the Mimic sabotages his stuff, he gets blowed up, he's stuck under rubble, and the Mimic, using Edwin's voice, says, sorry, buddy, Daddy's busy. Not now. That is a one-to-one narrative of, like, you are a shit father and you're being punished for it by the universe. So to do all of that and then be like, actually, William Afton killed your son, it's not your fault. What's the fucking point? So I agree, and I like and kind of dislike this idea at the same time, Marks. On one hand, it does seem pretty possible that there's some kind of parallel there, which would then explain why William Afton kidnapped Garrett. But on the other hand, the families do not line up very well. And the families, like, William Afton seemingly didn't kill David, so it'd be a weird pick to emulate that family for the family that you do kill a child from. It seems weird. But that's my thoughts on that. Thank you for your question. Now, before we move on to emails, I keep fucking yawning. So, luckily, perfect segue into the fact that, don't forget, you can use code RyeToast to get you some GAMERSUPPS. I genuinely drink this shit every day. Now, to be clear, there is a powdered drink brand They have caffeine and non-caffeine varieties. Because I always say, the doctor recommendation is to never do more than 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. Now, I'm a parent of 3 very young children, so I have a little bit more caffeine than I should. I keep it under 300 a day, personally. But because of that, this is a caffeine beverage, which I drank most of on the way back because I was really thirsty. But... I also I tend to stock our shelf with caffeine and non-caffeine because some of these flavors, it's not for the caffeine. I just really like them. They're really good. Probably my favorite right now is Gunpowder Rush, I think it's called. It's their grape apple. Also their BBL, their blueberry lemonade. Both of those probably my favorites they've ever had. I really like their more fruity ones. But there is a bunch of different flavors. They also have, in a separate cup that I'm going to drink more of after I record because I'm going to work out, is their GAMERAID, which is their hydration and creatine formula, which doesn't have any caffeine as far as I'm aware, but it instead has a little bit of creatine and hydration stuff in it. I don't know. It's listed on the website that I'll drink when I'm doing exercise stuff. So yeah. Now, I look, I've said it before, I'll say it again. When you use my code RyeToast for 10% off your entire order, I get a little bit of money. So I am incentivized to tell you guys to go and use my code. But they don't directly pay me to say anything. I'm allowed to say whatever I want, essentially. Now, of course, you should take it with a grain of salt because I'm incentivized to make you want to purchase it. But genuinely, I've been working with GamerSupps for like over a year now. I don't even remember when we started the partnership. I'm pretty sure it's over a year now. And I would not have been working with them this long if I didn't genuinely like the product and use it every day. So like I'll have my caffeine at lunch and I'll have non-caffeine throughout the day. It's fully replaced soda. I'll still have soda every now and then if like we're getting a pizza, but like I don't buy soda for myself anymore because I just drink GamerSupps. So like, they're all sugar free. They're all or they're zero sugar. I don't know if there's a legal difference there. They taste great. They're easy to make. Yeah, and I know there's the whole like, oh, I don't want a cup with a titty on it. Well, they've got other cups, like this is a JoJo's cup. They did a JoJo's collab, or they have their Pixel cups, which I really, really enjoy their Pixel cups. And if you want a cup with a titty, I mean, it's some tasteful, but if you want stuff with titties on it, I don't care. Live your life. Live your life. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. But I really enjoy GamerSupps, and I think you will too if you haven't yet. So again, go to RyeToast for 10% off. Anyway, let's do what we're here for. And that's the emails that I have. I've got quite a few loaded up. So our first one comes from Zeus, they, them. My theory isn't groundbreaking, but I wanted to put my hat in the ring by proposing that Oh, hold on. Hat in the ring. By proposing that Sleepy Moon in Secret of the Mimic is truly Edwin Murray. This is due not only to his clear parallel to his sun-themed wife counterpart in Moon.exe, but also to something I've seen many theorists overlook, the placement of David's ball in the larger moon's fallen ruins. The only time I've heard any mention of this was in the Candy Bunny theory that the fallen head had killed David. But I propose the moon, or for the sake of this theory, Edwin, place said ball in what is practically the physical representation of his heart, as if it's this treasure he guards despite not truly knowing its significance, due to what could be a hazy memory shown in other ghosts. Still willing to kill any wandering soul who tries to infiltrate his shell to reach his heart, being indicative of how Edwin would keep people from reaching his with a hard shell of his own. Okay. First of all, thank you for your question. I want to say out the gate, I really like the emotion and the storytelling behind this theory. Narratively, this theory is baller. Narratively, this theory rocks. I love what this theory is telling us in the story. Like you said, it is a perfect representation of this twisting, winding corridor to protect his heart and not let anything inside of it. And at the very center of it is David's ball. The representation of a child still buried deep, deep, deep down in that heart, even though, if anything, even he's not willing to face it. He's lost in the labyrinth as well, and not willing to face inside of that heart is that he does care about his child. He lost himself in that maze, I think that narratively this rocks. Evidentiarily, I have problems. One, it's possible everyone's alive. We're not sure. It's possible. But two, Edwin's... It's the moon specifically is a weird thing to possess because we see blueprints of the moon suit and it is hollow. It's essentially a big ball that you put around yourself. Your legs just go in where the pants are, and then there's sticks that you grab to manipulate the arms. It's a very analog suit. It's a very, very traditional suit. And it seems weird to possess something like that. Because it's basically just fabric and a moon. Like, I don't know how you'd make it walk so realistically, you know? Now, here's the other option of, is Edwin's body inside of Moon? Maybe. But we would have to assume the Mimic not only killed Edwin, but then picked him up, carried him all the way into the facility, all the way to the bottom of that maze, and then put him in the suit and left him there, which is weird. It's a weird assumption to make. Now, there's one last issue with it as well. Actually, there's an exact date for this, I believe. Let me get those. No, it's just day and time. I was hoping there'd be a year, but there's not. Oh, well, there we go, case in point. The other issue with this being Edwin Murray, and this is your biggest issue, is there's evidence actively working against you. The Sleepy Moon thing down there. Yeah, okay, it's these emails. It's been down there since Edwin Murray was alive. That's the issue. So if you remember, to get to that maze, you have to unlock a code to open up access to an elevator to go down. That door being locked and hard to access is in canon. That is a diegetic puzzle because there's something down there. So we have these messages. So bored. Hey, Clarence, you as bored as I am? I can't believe we got the retail showroom detail again. So boring. Although, did you finally get into the elevator? That thing hasn't worked in so long, I don't even think Murray knows what's down there anymore. Dash Sean. So, employees are still working at MCM, so this is pretty early, and because by the time of Edwin's death, there was literally either zero or close to zero employees by the time Edwin Murray died. There's very little employees. So, active people working the retail showroom. You know, like, if there's not a lot of employees left, like, they're working. They're making things. They're working on to just stand detail at the retail showroom. We have a lot of employees right now. So, you know, there's something. So the elevator's locked. Murray's alive, and there's employees working here. Then we get the slew of retail emails. Retail Monday, 8 a.m. Sean, I found out why they closed it down. There's something below us. I've trapped it behind the carousel for now, but I don't know how long that can hold it. I've programmed the monitors to give you the code. I gotta go. I'll mail you later. And then the series of code hints finished with retail Friday, 6:30 p.m. There you have it. Just don't use the code unless it's a matter of life or death. Have mercy on our souls if that thing ever gets out. So something was down there already by the time of people still working there and Edwin Murray still being alive. So realistically, it kind of has to be Sleepy Moon. This is the same reason why I don't think it's the Mimic, because the Mimic wasn't really a player in the game until a bit later into the timeline. At least not in the way of putting on a suit, roaming the halls, and being dangerous. You know, like, if anything, the Mimic would be Fiona right now, and, like, why would she be down there? So we have these employees talking about there's something down there, it seems dangerous, it's terrifying, keep it locked down there no matter what. So then the question is, like, what is down there? Well, there's one more pertinent email that we get when we're down there, which is night shift. Hey, is anybody up there? I'm stuck down here. The elevator isn't working and I'm getting really hungry. Is anyone getting this message? And that's it. So, like, I tend to think if anybody is possessing Sleepy Moon, it is, in fact, the night shift. The guy that's down there. The guy that got trapped down there, starved to death, and then went on to possess Moon. Maybe he was in the suit. Or, you know, there's the other option, a really fun option, that it's more of a Ratman situation where it's not a dead guy who's possessing it. It's a crazed, starving, surviving on eating rats, previous worker who's now using Sleepy Moon to keep a light as he looks for more rats to kill, and he sees you and goes, a meal, and hunts you down, you know? There's a lot of options there. But I think the fact that whatever is down there was down there when Edwin was presumably alive, because again, we have that, it hasn't worked in so long, I don't even think Murray knows what's down there anymore, meaning Murray is still alive. So that alone, look, I again, your theory narratively is really satisfying and tells a great story about Edwin Murray as a character. Unfortunately, the evidence is against you, so I don't see it as much as I frankly want to. But thank you for your theory. Our next one comes from Kale, him. I think that the meaning... Now, this is a bold swing, an attempt to solve Chica's secret party. Bold swing. I think the meaning behind Chica's secret party is to show us that Fazburger is canon. The screenshots from inside the game show that it is the Midnight Motorist house, and inside the house lines up with Murray's house. The window in the basement and the kitchen. Or the one window in the kitchen, the two windows in a nondescript room, so the brick basement. With William as Toy Chica having the kids at the fun times who are below the basement in the bunker have brought home from the rental service for him to test on. So it's worded a little difficult here, but the idea being Chica's secret party is a mishmash of like 7 different locations, all of which can kind of be analogued to Fazburger. The name of the theory for the fact that it's like the Murray house, FNAF 4 house with sister location underneath it, and then the Pizzaplex / MCM with FNAF 6 underneath it, and then with something underneath. You know, like there's layers like that. Being called Fazburger because one big burger. But it's the fact that, you know, it's the Midnight Motorist house with a layout that's closer to the Murray's house, with, you know, the kids underneath in the basement, kind of like sister location. Like, there's a lot of things like that. I like this. I don't think it's clear enough to be a good way to show it. Kind of. Right? Like, where I hesitate on this is that you're right to say that it's weird that this location represents so many other locations, but doing that just to say Fazburgers canon, I feel like is not the most efficient or clear way to say that. Whereas if we are to look at the fact that Chica's secret party seems like 3 or 4 different locations, maybe it's more so going into Molten Freddy, and, you know, that there's victims from all these different locations. I could see that. You know, it's something a bit more impactful than essentially what Secret of the Mimic already told us. You know, like, if we didn't have Secret of the Mimic, I'd be more on your side here, because, like, Fazburger's kind of weird and hard to prove outside of Secret of the Mimic. You have to use a lot of disparate evidence. But now that we have a game that basically shows us the exact layout of the Security Breach Pizzaplex, but it's MCM, and then a house that looks like FNAF 4 house, but not, like, Secret of the Mimic lines everything up really, really well to help us understand Fazburger more. So to do that and then release Chica's secret party feels weird to me, rather than just releasing Secret of the Mimic. So I feel like it's got to be telling us something else. But that, to be fair, you're right to point out it's interesting that we have these parallels to other locations in the franchise. We should be looking into why that is. So thank you for your question. Our next one comes from the Dutch IT Geek, they, them. I wanted to reach out and share something I discovered while playing Five Nights at Freddy's 6, Pizzeria Simulator, that I haven't seen discussed anywhere online. While playing the Fruity Maze minigame, I noticed something unusual about the scoring. In the first round, no matter how many times I play, collecting all the fruit always results in a total score of exactly 1960, without exception. However, in the second and third rounds, the score varies and is significantly lower, typically somewhere between 300 and 600 points. I've tested this repeatedly, and the 1960 figure in round 1 is always consistent. I've searched through forums and community discussions, but couldn't find anyone who's pointed this out before. Personally, I think this could be a newly discovered hint or piece of hidden lore, but I'd love to hear your take on it. You know, you're right. It's weird that we get 1960 as a score, which is ostensibly, like, it could have been anything. Could have been 2000. You know, it could have been an even number. It could have been 1500, 1900, 2000, anything. It's 1960. It is a non-rounded, not rounded to the hundreds anyway, number. And it always is. You know, the point, the maze and the stuff in it, as far as I'm aware, is randomized. I would assume so. Well, maybe not the maze itself, but the placements of the fruit and the power-ups. If it's not, that's wild. But I assume it is. And for it to always end up as 1960 seems to be purposeful. You know, it's got to be. So the question then becomes, how in the world could 1960 be a relevant date to anything? Well, we have to think about restaurants. 1979 is when Secret of the Mimic takes place. A year or two prior is when Edwin Murray died. And Edwin Murray, when he took over the company, they were already working with Fazbear. You know, they already had Fredbear Family Diner posters. I think what this might be telling us. Now, if I, shot in the dark, how could 1960 be relevant? Go. Well, that is the same minigame where we see William Afton wearing the Spring Bonnie suit. So it's not impossible that 1960 is the year Fredbear's Family Diner opened. And was open for about 20 years until the bite of 83. I could see that. I really could. Especially if at first it was suits. You know, because the thing with Murray's Costume Manor, let me pull up MCM profit chart, because we have that profit chart from Murray's Costume Manor. How far back does that go? Yeah, net earnings 1965 to 1975. Do we know when Edwin Murray's father died? Probably not. But I can wager a guess. No, we don't have a clear year. But the profit chart we have, shows a very interesting story. Because this meteoric rise in profitability right between 72 and 73. And I don't think that could be the Cleanovac. Because Edwin is talking about how this invention will be better than the Cleanovac on David's second birthday. David was 5 when he died, which seemingly would be 74, 75 around then. And there is that meteoric rise at 72, which would be the Cleanovac, but even better than the Cleanovac to me sounds like he's already made the Cleanovac and he's working on getting, and he's been trying to rack his brain on how to do something better. So if it's net earnings, that could possibly be that shoot up, when they're in the red, could possibly be the Fazburger project. Hey, here's a bunch of money, go to start the project. I could see that, or maybe that is the Cleanovac and it's just a little weird in that way. Regardless, if we're looking at this chart, we have the company in red for the majority of the time until 1972. And it seems like Edwin Murray Sr. was a good businessman. Where people keep talking about the fact that I'm nothing like my father. He ran this company brilliantly. I couldn't. I could not run this like my father did. Which I would assume if he ran the business brilliantly, Murray's Costume Manor wouldn't be in the red. So I kind of want to assume that if it's in the red, that's because that's when, the net earnings of 1965 to 1975, that's when Edwin Murray was running it, not Edwin Murray Sr. So that means, if that's true, which is a big leap, then Edwin Murray inherited the company around 1965. Maybe that's when Edwin Murray Sr. died. Why do I bring all this up? Edwin Murray Sr. told Edwin not to trust Fazbear. We have that one audio log where Edwin's losing his mind. He's like, it's them, they're the leak, they're doing this, they're ruining this. My father told me not to trust them, and when it was assumedly talking about Fazbear. Which means that Edwin Murray Sr. had a relationship with Fazbear, which means he would have been working with Fazbear Entertainment in the early 60s. Which means, and the reason we did all this, Edwin Murray, or that Fazbear Entertainment existed in the early 60s. So that kind of makes this 1960 year, maybe that is when Fredbear's Family Diner opened, and if Fredbear's Family Diner opened way, way earlier than all of us expected. I think a lot of us assumed that Fredbear's Family Diner opened sometime in the mid to late 70s, and then in 1983 closed down. But maybe this was a successful restaurant for some time. It opened in the 60s to moderate success. It got bigger and bigger and bigger until they needed to branch out, and then they start looking into animatronics to be able to branch out, and then that's when Secret of the Mimic begins to happen. So when we're looking at, what is this 1960 figure? Well, it's the first round of Fruity Maze. It's the beginning of Fruity Maze. Maybe it's the beginning of Fredbear's. We see Spring Bonnie, which would have been one of the Fredbear's suits, in that very same game. He's hunting down Susie, and that's why he's there. But 1960, if I had to wager any kind of guess, the only thing that's coming to mind is the fact that maybe Fredbear's Family Diner opened in 1960. Otherwise, I got no idea. Not a single clue. But, there you go, question of the Dutch IT Geek. Next one comes from John, him. I was wondering what happened to us after the Jackie chase. I know we fell into the office, but where's Jackie? In the chase, it looks like she falls first and we fall after. And I really doubt that she'd just leave us alone. Do you have any idea what the reason is? Yeah, it is one of the stranger parts, right? I love the idea that because, if you track the chase, us falling into the security office does make perfect sense. Because the way the chase is mapped out, that's where we're ending up. We're in the ventilation right above the security office. And it's like a cute way that they wrap up that chase. But you're incredibly correct to point out this doesn't work. Because Jackie falls first into the same hole, but is nowhere to be found after. I don't even think she's dangling from the vents or anything. And even if Jackie's body was there, which it should have been, if the Mimic fell and then we fall too, we're unconscious, why doesn't the Mimic just kill us right then? Why doesn't the Mimic just kill us? We both fell into the same security office. Why doesn't the Mimic kill us? You could argue maybe it also wants us to find the schematics, but then why did it chase us in the first place then? Or, I don't know. It seems strange to me. I think, unfortunately, I can't think of any lore reason why Jackie / the Mimic wouldn't go for the kill just then. So, to me, if anything, the only option is we wanted a cool moment, and we don't want Arnold to die 1 hour into the game. So she just runs away when we both fall, and we'll move on. There's not a great explanation for it. That's the only one I can think of, so I guess that's what we go with. But yeah, it's I think, frankly, that's just a thing that kind of takes you out of the moment of where the hell did Jackie go? Because I remember distinctly, at least more than one streamer I watched play through it did the fall and was like, that's awesome. And then they're in the office and go, oh, how'd I get here? Oh, I fell through the vent. Where's Jackie then? It takes a moment to piece together what happened, but the fact that Jackie isn't there makes it even more confusing. At least if Jackie's body was left in the office and the Mimic ran away, you could make an argument, and then you could have the cool Jackie's suit still in the office. That'd be fun. But yeah, no, the fact that she's just fully gone is what? But thank you for your question. And our last question today comes from Trix, they. Was listening to your Is Edwin Alive video. I think some people are jumping a gun a little bit based off the shadow. I do think Edwin is dead, but the shadow is the ghost or agony or something of Edwin. First off, the way the shadow moves doesn't look like a person walking. I understand they didn't want to make a whole walk cycle, but they could have at least added a bot motion or even stock video of someone walking. The way it is shown in the game reminds me of when Tiger suddenly appears. It would also fix the hole in the theory of M2 not seeing Edwin. It would also fit thematically, since I do believe David is possessing the White Tiger, and Fiona is in some way possessing M1/F10 and 4, or at least the building. If Edwin's spirit is there too, I mean the whole family's spirits are together. That's a great point. I had never considered the silhouette just being Edwin's ghost or something. Because you're right to point out that it doesn't walk, it doesn't turn or anything. It slides to one side and then slides back to the other side. Which for something that wasn't there in the first place, why add it? and not go all in. Like, you specifically added something, so we can't say it was like, oh, we wanted to add a walk cycle, but time crunch, so it's like, no, you added it after the fact. You had time. So this is a purposeful decision. The idea of a ghost just like wandering back and forth, sure. Not to mention there is, like you mentioned, there's weird unexplainable spirit stuff. The white tiger teleports all over the place. Random lights will flicker on and off, and it's like a weird stress thing for Arnold. So the silhouette being like, if you go there, you can't see a ghost. But when you look from far away and you see the silhouette in a window, that's also, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that like a ghost trope already? Like the silhouette in the window that you think you see, but it's hard to tell. That already sounds like the trope, like a ghost-like trope. So like I see the vision entirely, and I do kind of agree with it in that way. I like that I'm able to say Edwin is probably dead, and also the silhouette of the window, because I arguing that Edwin is alive is tough. The last time we hear from him, he's trapped under rubble and coughing, begging for help. The only way it could be more explicit is if we hear a crunch and then the audio log stopped, you know, like, and even then people be like, oh, well, that's the mimic stepping on a watermelon next to Edwin, and Edwin's still alive. You know, there's always going to be a way to argue yourself around it, regardless of how random it is. But the idea that this silhouette is simply just Edwin's spirit wandering around what he's... And, you know, it's also fitting that even in death, motherfucker's still working. Because of all the places we see Edwin Murray's ghost, it's wandering around the goddamn digityper who goes, work, work, work. I hope you're working well. Don't forget to take breaks when you're done working to come back and work some more. Like, the fact that Edwin of all the rooms is possessing that one is so funny to me. Like, even in death, he's still a workaholic. Dude, get a life. Well, get a death, dude. Like, I do like that a lot. I think it's a good explanation for why there's a silhouette without needing Edwin to be alive. Because any other explanation, I don't think is a good one. A new character. What a weird way to introduce that. William or Henry. It's dangerous. Why would they be there? Edwin's ghost? I see the vision. I like that a lot. So I think you're right to say we were jumping the gun. I just didn't consider, what if it's just actually a ghost? We very rarely deal with just straight up ghosts in this franchise. It's usually possessed objects, possessed animatronics. Very rarely is it's a ghost. But I like it a lot. And so, hey, maybe it is. We'll see. But I'm going to go lay down, because even after caffeine, I'm still pretty eepy. Regardless, thank you for your questions. And again, if you want your questions sent on the podcast, you send them into the Patreon for priority answering, or you can email them at Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast at gmail.com. It's in the description to copy and paste because it's a pain to type out. But until next time, as always, you've been watching the Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast, where the pizza abilities are endless. We hope to enjoy your future patronage. Bye-bye for now.